and thank you for everybody who's helping with the service. If you are new or returning after some time away, we're glad that you're here again.
Okay.
Feel free to fill out a blue welcome card, which somebody will hold up and wave. And we'll put you, and you can put it in the offering plate later, and we can put you on our email list, and you can get messages about all the things that are going on here. We strive to be a congregation that welcomes people of all ages, races, religions, religious beliefs, backgrounds, sexual orientation, gender identities, and abilities. We belong to the Unitarian Universalist Association of Congregations, and we are guided and inspired by its values and principles. Our values and principles move us to remember that we in Northampton inhabit unceded land from the Klimczak and Nipmuc people. They remind us to acknowledge our responsibility to face the legacies of dispossession and systemic racism that are part of our collective history, even as we also affirm and celebrate the legacies that inspire us. If you're on Zoom, we ask you to keep your videos off except during the greetings. And if you're in the Great Hall, thank you for wearing a mask. So this is an adult Credo service, and what does that mean? Well, for many, many years, we've asked our coming of age youth, people around 13 plus or minus a year, to tell us what they believe. Our faith is a non-creedal religion, and it allows us to create our own belief system based on the principles that guide us. And so more than 2 decades ago, we said, well, if the youth are doing it, why don't we ask the adults to share their thoughts with us? And so for 20 or 25 years, we've had 1 or 2 services a year where some of the adults have shared their belief system and what brought them here and their journey, their religious journey. And today we have Craig Dreeszen and Corky Klimczak, and I'm sure you'll find them inspiring. So now we will begin our service.
The opening words are from James Vila Blake, who was a minister in Illinois at the turn of the 20th century. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. That is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. I invite you, everybody, to rise in body or spirit for our chalice lighting, and we'll remain standing for the first hymn. We light this chalice as a beacon of hope a sign of our quest for truth and meaning. We light our chalice as a beacon of love in celebration of the life we share together.
All right, next we have the story, which is called 3 Questions. There once was a boy named Nikolai. Sorry, thank you. There once was a boy named Nikolai who sometimes felt uncertain about the right way to act. I want to be a good person, he told his friends, but I don't always know the best way to do that. Nikolai's friends understood, and they wanted to help him. If only I could find the answers to my 3 questions, Nikolai continued, then I would always know what to do. When is the best time to do things? Who is the most important one? What is the right thing to do? Nikolai's friends considered his first question. Then Sonia, the heroine, spoke. Sorry, the heron spoke. Maybe the heroine. To know the best time to do things, one must plan in advance, she said. Gogol, the monkey, who had been rooting through some leaves to find something good to eat, said, "You will know when to do things if you watch and pay close attention." Then Pushkin, the dog, who was dozing off, rolled over and said, "You can't pay attention to everything yourself. You need a pack to watch and help you decide when to do things. For example, Gogol, a coconut is about to fall on your head." Nikolai thought for a moment. Then he asked his second question. Who is the most important one? Those who are closest to heaven, said Sonia, circling up into the sky. Those who know how to heal the sick, said Gogol, stroking his bruised noggin. Those who make the rules, growled Pushkin. Nikolai thought some more. Then he asked the third question. What is the right thing to do? Flying, said Sonia. Having fun all the time, laughed Gogol. Fighting, barked Pushkin right away. Then the boy thought for a long while. He loved his friends. He knew they were all trying their best to help him answer his questions. But their answers didn't seem quite right. Then an idea came to him. I know, he thought. I will ask Leo the turtle. He has lived a very long time. Surely he will know the answers I am looking for. Nikolai hiked high up into the mountains, where the old turtle lived all alone. When Nikolai arrived, he found Leo digging a garden. The turtle was old and digging was hard for him. I have 3 questions and I came for your help, Nikolai said. When is the best time to do things? Who is the most important one? What is the right thing to do? Leo listened carefully, but he only smiled. Then he went on with his digging. "You must be tired," Nikolai said at last. "Let me help you." The turtle gave him his shovel and thanked him. And because it was easier for a young boy to dig than it was for an old turtle, Nikolai kept on digging until the rows were finished. But just as he finished, the wind blew wildly and rain burst from the darkened clouds. As they moved toward the cottage for shelter, Nikolai suddenly heard a cry for help. Running down the path, he found a panda whose leg had been injured by a fallen tree. Next slide. Thank you. Carefully, Nikolai carried her into Leo's house and made a splint for her leg with a stick of bamboo. The storm raged on, banging at the doors and windows. The panda woke up. "Where am I?" she said, "and where is my child?" Next slide. The boy ran out of the cottage and down the path. The roar of the storm was deafening. Pushing against the howling wind and drenching rain, he ran further into the forest. There he found the panda's child, cold and shivering on the ground. The little panda was wet and scared, but alive. Nikolai carried her inside and made her warm and dry. Then he laid her in her mother's arms. Leo smiled when he saw what the boy had done. Next slide, please. Thanks. The next morning, the sun was warm, birds sang, and all was well with the world. The panda's leg was healing nicely, and she thanked Nikolai for saving her and her baby from the storm. That moment, Sonia, Gogol, and Pushkin arrived to make sure everyone was all right. Nikolai felt great peace within himself. He had wonderful friends, and he had saved the panda and her child, but he also felt disappointed. He still had not found the answers to his 3 questions, so he asked Leo one more time. The old turtle looked at the boy. "But your questions have been answered," he said. "They have?" asked the boy. "Yesterday, if you had not stayed to help me dig my garden, you wouldn't have heard the panda's cries for help in the storm. Therefore, the most important time was the time you spent digging the garden. The most important one at that moment was me, and the most important thing to do was help me with my garden. Later, when you found the injured panda, the most important time was the time you spent mending her leg and saving her child. The most important ones were the panda and her baby. And the most important thing to do was take care of them and make them safe." Remember then that there is only one important time, and that time is now. The most important one is always the one you are with. And the most important thing to do is good for the one who is standing at your side. For these, my dear boy, are the answers to what is most important in this world. This is why we are here. The end.
Thank you, Eva. I invite you to rise in body or spirit and join in singing hymn number 108, "How Can I Keep from Singing?" Now it's time to greet one another. For those in the Great Hall, you can please wave and say hi to one another. If you're on Zoom, you're invited to turn on your videos, wave, and say hello in the chat. Anyone online or here in person who is new or newish, please say hi and tell us where you're from. So, hi Peggy, and let me see who's here. Let's see, I see Evelyn. Hey Evelyn. Janet Clark. Gail, hello. Joanna, hi. Annie and Paul, good to have you here. Jane. Ann Lombard's there. Sally. Robbie, hi. Jess Jones. I'm sure there's more. Nancy Whittier says good morning. Jai and Elizabeth, hi. I don't think I've ever met you, but nice to see you. Nice smiles. Hey, Catherine, it's been a while. John and Gail, I see John there. Amy, oh, isn't the baby cute? Melissa, George is here. Eric, hi. Harriet, hello. Steve Kramer's around. Jessica, hi Laura. Eric. Well, it's been good to see everyone. Please turn off your videos. Well, it looked like you're all having fun there. So now it's time for anyone going through religious education activities to leave us. And let's please join in singing them out.
This reading is from the founding document of the First Congregational Society of Florence in 1863, which is one of the two congregations that this Unitarian Society descends from. They're engraved in the back of the Great Hall. Respecting in each other and in all the right of intellect and conscience to be free, and holding it to be the duty of everyone to keep his mind and heart at all times open to receive the truth and follow its guidance, we set up no theological condition of membership and neither demand nor expect uniformity of doctrinal belief, asking only the unity of purpose to seek and accept the right and true and an honest aim and effort to make these the rule of life. And recognizing the brotherhood of the human race and the equality of human rights, we make no distinction as to the conditions and rights of membership in this society on account of sex or color or nationality.
Thank you, Corky. Corky chose to say those words. They're perfect for an adult Credo service, and they're quite amazing that in 1863, those words were written. So right now, Liz Rich will share some of her thoughts about stewardship.
Good morning. I'm Liz Rich, and I'm a member of the Stewardship Committee. When we started coming to the USNF, we had no idea how everything worked. We didn't know the volunteer effort or funding that was needed to run a congregation. When we were asked to give, we thought of it like our college or organization we supported, and we gave $100. We had no idea that we were actually giving to keep the doors open and pay our wonderful staff. Now the way I look at stewardship is that we are supporting our spiritual journey with the people we love, in a place we love, and being guided by people who love us. So when we give, we now give a lot more than $100 because we can, and because it means so much to us. So as we wrap up our stewardship campaign this year, the Stewardship Committee would like you to know that approximately 2/3 of our pledging households or people have contributed over $200,000 to next year's budget. We are hoping that 1/3 of you will please take the call from your steward or meet with them and pledge what you can for the place we love. And thanks to the overachievers on this page who have already pledged. So us underachievers can take a little extra time to do that. And thank you all.
Thank you, Liz. Our generosity makes everything we do possible. It helps us support organizations and movements in the greater community. Half the proceeds of each offering support the Society's operating budget, and the other half is shared outside our walls. You can make a check, donate online, put a contribution in one of the plates the ushers will now be passing. The offering will now be given and gratefully received.
I'd like to invite you to join me in a short guided meditation. So if you would like to put your feet on the floor, close or lower your eyes, settle into stillness. Take a deep breath. Notice your breath coming all the way in, all the way out. Find your stillness, which isn't really still. Breathing, heart beating, mind thinking. Thoughts come and go. That's what minds do. Just notice, without wishing it were otherwise. Each time your attention wanders, come back. Pay attention to the silence and the sounds in the silence. Just listen. Even if you're at home, we are sitting together. Notice what it feels like to be companioned by so many others who have gathered together in a space made sacred by our love. Let's sit for just a few more breaths.
There was a child named Bernadette. I heard her story long ago. She saw the Queen of Heaven once and kept the vision in her soul. No one believed what she had seen. No one believed what she heard, that there were sorrows to be healed, and mercy, mercy in this world. So many hearts I find broke like yours and mine, torn by what we've done and can't undo. I just want to hold you. Won't you let me hold you like Bernadette would do? We've been around, we fall, we fly. We mostly fall, we mostly run. But every now and then we try to mend the damage that we've done. Tonight, I just can't rest. we've done and can't undo. I just wanna hold you. Won't you let me hold you like Bernadette would do? I just wanna hold you. Won't you let me hold you like Bernadette would do?
Our reading is from Robert McLaren, a book called Do I Stay Christian? It's an excerpt from a prayer that he wrote. I do not know everything. I do not even know how much I do not know. Nor do I know how much of what I know is impartial, faulty, or false. So I pray. Source of all truth, help me to hunger for truth, even if it upsets, modifies, or overturns what I already think is true. Guide me into all the truth I can bear, and stretch me to bear more, so that I may always choose the whole truth, even with disruption, over half-truths with self-deception. Grant me passion to follow wisdom wherever it leads. Do not let me be satisfied to see only what is visible from my limited perspective. Grant me curiosity to understand what my neighbors can see from their different vantage points. Help me draw near to them, to walk with them, to see through their eyes, hear through their ears, and feel through their experiences. So my horizons will be broadened through empathy. Grant me curiosity and awe, that I may honor the bottomless, limitless wonder, beauty, and mystery of this world. I didn't know that Ellen was going to be playing Bernadette. I have to say before I begin my credo that I'm no Bernadette, but my credo does begin with an experience I had, a powerful experience I had when I was about 9 or 10. I went to a friend's house hoping she could play, but she had to clean her room. So I headed to the woods behind her house alone. I spent a lot of time in those woods and often climbed trees. One of my favorite white pines to climb was on a hill overlooking my friend's house. That day, I climbed it higher than I ever had before, right up to the very top branches. Suddenly, strong gusts of wind began to blow. I clung to a top branch as we swooped down in one direction, back up, and then swooped down in the other, over and over. When I've told this story, people usually ask me if I was frightened. I wasn't, because I experienced an overpowering, all-encompassing feeling, first of being one with the tree, and then of being one with everything. I'd never felt anything so powerful before, and I've rarely felt anything similar since. I didn't know the words ecstatic or mystical then, but when I learned them later, I came to associate them with that experience, which has always stayed with me. This experience of oneness transformed me in ways I didn't understand then, and still don't fully understand. But I didn't need to understand to know that it was real and had deep meaning. At that time, my family belonged to an Episcopal church where I attended Sunday school and sang in the youth choir. I don't remember if it was before or after my experience in the tree that I decided to make an altar in my bedroom, but I wouldn't be surprised to learn that it came after. I don't remember telling anyone about my experience in the tree, certainly not any adult, because I knew they would scold me for putting myself in danger. But I'm pretty sure I chose not to tell my friends either, because I couldn't come up with words that would help them understand. A couple of years later, it was time for my Sunday school class to prepare for confirmation. I participated in the preparation classes, but refused to be confirmed in the end. Not so much because of strong objections to the Episcopalian beliefs, although I did have some doubts, but because I felt it was unfair to ask a 12-year-old to make a lifelong commitment to any religion. It was as though I'd been given a menu with most of the meal choices redacted. I thought it was only fair to show me the unredacted menu before asking me to choose. I had enough Catholic and Jewish friends to know that there were substantive choices to be made. I remember being very relieved when I learned that agnostic was a legitimate position on the existence of God. Even as a young person, I had trouble with the concept of belief in the face of what couldn't be proved or disproved. Like Rilke, I've always been more comfortable with questions than answers. I think beliefs too often prematurely end the ongoing process of learning that comes from deep exploration of where our questions lead us. I remember a long ago sermon in which the UU minister preached that the important question for Unitarian Universalists was not what do we believe, but what do we believe in? To what values and to whom are we committed? To what and to whom are we accountable? What eventually brought our family to USNF was our 7-year-old daughter's insistent questions about religion. Specifically, Mom, what do we believe? She was not at all satisfied with my answer that we believed that everyone had the right to decide for themselves what they believed. That only returned us to the question, but what do we believe? I realized I needed the help of other adults to provide the religious education she was obviously looking for. And I was fortunate to have lived in Concord, Massachusetts as a teen and to have had many UU friends. So I knew that our kids could get the kind of non-doctrinal religious education that David and I would be comfortable with in a UU congregation. What I didn't realize at the time was how much I had been missing a spiritual home for my own growth and development. Today's opening words by James Vila Blake were often read when we first joined this congregation in the mid-'80s, and their simplicity always resonated with me. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. The Florence Statement was also very frequently read during services. We were proud of our forebears, particularly because in the midst of the Civil War in 1863, they had the foresight to proclaim that all were welcome here, regardless of sex or color or nationality. Since then, we've added just a few other categories of welcome, but it was a good beginning and remarkable for the times. What moved me most in the Florence Statement, though, was the admonishment to keep the mind and heart at all times open to receive the truth and follow its guidance, asking only unity of purpose to seek and accept the right and true, and an honest aim and effort to make these the rule of life. A commitment to actively practice remaining open to receive the truth and follow its guidance, and making an honest aim and effort to live by the right and true is a reasonably good description of my spiritual path. Over the years, the path has led me to explore in many different directions, including membership in a pagan women's circle, attending gatherings led by people channeling wisdom from non-corporeal beings, experimenting with various forms of meditation, and regularly worshiping with Benedictine monks at the Weston Priory in Vermont. I have more often received glimpses of truth through opening my heart and discerning when a new path is opening to me than by using my brain to seek understanding. My experience in the tree as a child laid the foundation for my faith and trust in a transformational power for the well-being of all that is greater than the self. A power that is revealed to us when we open ourselves to experiencing it and when we witness it moving through others. For me, no one word adequately encompasses this power, but words I associate with it are love, wisdom, justice, beauty, and truth, and sometimes even God. Opening to it motivates us to be our best selves and inspires us to better our world, to quote from our very own mission statement. During my many personal spiritual explorations, I've always considered this congregation to be my spiritual home. My path would have been much lonelier and less vibrant without this community, seeking the right and true, and finding ways to live our values and be our highest selves together. Your moral courage and passion for peace and justice have inspired me over and over. The power of love moving through this community is an awesome force. One time I felt it most strongly was when our son was diagnosed with cancer when he was 10. The prognosis was good, that the cancer wouldn't kill him, and it didn't, thank God, but the treatments almost did, multiple times. He was in the hospital for 3 months, received many cards, gifts, and visitors from USNF, and we had more offers of help than we could use. After 3 months at Bay State, Evan was finally able to come home. The following weekend was the annual USNF picnic at Look Park. He was still very thin and weak, but wanted to go, and I can remember sitting on a blanket next to him as adults and his RE friends took turns welcoming him home. The outpouring of love and caring brought tears to my eyes, still does. Last year, when Janet challenged us to craft a credo in 6 words or fewer, after a lot of writing, I came up with seek wisdom, pursue justice, grow love. I was already on the path to seeking wisdom and passionate about growing love before I became a member of USNF. But my commitment to work for justice, particularly racial justice, developed here. I'm not sure it would have made the cut to be included in my 6-word credo without the education, support, and inspiration of the racial justice team, USNF The Vote, and the Climate Action Group. Working for justice has become central to my identity, and for that, and so much else, I'm deeply grateful to all of you. I invite you to rise in body or spirit and join in singing the hymn Wo Ya Ya, number 1020 in the Teal hymnal.
Our second reading is a small excerpt from Hope in the Dark by Rebecca Solnit. When we recognize uncertainty about the future, we realize that we may be able to influence outcomes, alone or in concert with a few dozen or several million others. Hope is an embrace of the known and the unknowable. It's an alternative to certainty. It's the belief that what we do matters, even though how and when it may matter, who and what it may impact, are not things we can know beforehand. We may not, in fact, know them afterwards either, but they matter all the same. So Corky and I did not coordinate our credos, but it's amazing how many common themes there are. It must be the air we breathe here. As Unitarian Universalists, we support each other in our search for truth and meaning. And I suppose my credo is an attempt to answer what I'm learning from that search. What do I believe? What is truth? Ultimately, I don't know, and that may be the truest thing I say here today. Not all I believe is true. I believe I'll be here next week. We'll see. What do I believe? Better perhaps to ask, what can I trust? I've been asking a long time. I have a vivid memory of sitting in an auditorium, a high school English class, with television monitors against the walls, and a remote instructor was teaching English. This was really cutting edge education back in 1967. The teacher was talking about the transcendentalists Emerson and Thoreau and the poet Walt Whitman. And I have no idea now what he said. But decades later, I can still remember a quickening of my attention. I woke up. This is true. I may have heard then, as I believe now, that all things, including me, are intimately interconnected. There is an ultimate unity, and I can know this directly. Poets may have wisdom, but their words are not the ultimate truth. I read poetry, spiritual texts, and respect religious leaders, but these can't tell me what is true. Hakuin wrote in 17th century Japan about what Buddhists call the great matter. He said, realize that this cannot be handed down, cannot be explained. Rather, it is like knowing for yourself by drinking it, whether the water is warm or cold. There's an intimate knowing that transcends teachers and words. I get a glimpse of that insight from sometimes. The first sip of coffee on an early morning, the clear sound of a bell, the light glistening off water can open a door to the infinite. A loving gesture or a hearing loss can do the same. When I pay attention, when I become still, I can stand in awe of the profound and the ordinary. Books and teachers can only point the way. The Japanese poet Basho understood this. He wrote, "Do not seek to follow the footsteps of the wise. Seek what they sought." Basho wrote the famous haiku, only one I know by heart. Old pond, frog jumps in, splash. That splash might have been Basho describing his own experience of direct knowing. Emerson was inspired by Eastern traditions, but he preached a Western ideal of self-reliance. For a long time, I believed I didn't need a religious faith. But when Diane and I thought we were ready to have a child, we knew we needed help. We walked through those blue doors at the back on Easter Sunday in 1986. John Firmakis was in the pulpit. There was balloons, a profusion of balloons and friendly people everywhere. John gave a sermon, but he did not talk about Jesus on Easter. We thought, well, this place has promise. We came looking for religious education and we found a spiritual home. I had no idea then what this community would, how important it would mean to me. Now, 37 years later, I cannot imagine not being a part of this beloved community. It has changed my life. I also had no idea that David Caruso's adult education class on Zen Buddhism in the parlor would do the same. And nearly a decade later, after that workshop, I sit in daily meditation, meet regularly with Zen teachers, and am supported by a sangha of other Zen practitioners. My Zen practice and study profoundly shape what I believe, and my practice reminds me to find the stillness. When Janet offered that challenge to write our credos in 6 words, my practice made this easy. I thought right away, pay attention. That's it. Notice what actually is right here, right now. Not what I wish were true or hope would be true, but what is. Just this. Not what I prefer to be true, but what is actually before me now. That's my credo. Pay attention. And for just a short while, I thought I would come up here and just say that. Pay attention. The Buddha is said to have offered a sermon where he said not a word. He just twirled a flower. It would have been a pretty short service. So at the risk of saying too much, here's 10 things I trust. First, I can't know for sure what is true. And what I think I know is hard to articulate. We find in the Tao Te Ching, those who know don't talk. Those who talk don't know. Yet here I am. I trust that everything changes. Nothing is permanent. Not me, not you, not granite mountains that crumble into sand. I need only rake leaves or look in the mirror to see the truth of impermanence. When I met Corky, I had hair.
And mine was brown.
Whatever we encounter, whether we call it good or bad, this too shall pass. I trust in our 7th principle. We are an integral part of an interdependent web. We are not separate, you and I, and the rest of the universe. There isn't even a unique, independent, unchanging self, a thing I call me. I am my ancestors, and I am what I eat and breathe. We affect and are affected by forces far beyond our understanding. And what I do matters in a way I can hardly imagine. Who knows the impact of our prayers and postcards? And quantum physics find that entangled particles can affect each other even when they're light years apart. The yesterday I remember is only a story. The tomorrow I imagine may never happen. I believe only this moment is real. And now this one. Just this, pay attention. But why does this matter? Remembering and planning are very useful. It's good to remember to know how to drive a car or fill the gas tank before it's empty. Thinking back and taking precautions for the future are fine, until I blame or get anxious. Then I cause needless suffering for me and for others. The mistakes I regret and the imagined injuries I've suffered are just stories. Most of what I fear won't happen. I suffer when I wish reality were different. I have to relearn this truth every day. When I'm ill, I make it worse by wishing it were otherwise. Asking why me is not helpful. I find it more helpful to notice what is happening rather than why. Ehe Dogen wrote, "Flowers fall though we love them, weeds grow though we hate them. Things are as they are. And when I resist reality, reality always wins. Yet, resist we must. When we recognize greed, anger, or ignorance, we don't have to say that's okay. We may say, this is what is. Now what are we going to do about it? I believe it was Bernie Glassman, a founder of Zen Peacemakers, who captured this apparent paradox. He said, "Love the world just as it is with all your heart and fight like hell to change it." We work hard for change, yet we try not to get attached to the ideal results we imagine. There are many things I'm not sure about, but I know kindness is always the right choice. Choosing kindness honors the inherent worth and dignity of every person, our first principle. And the Dalai Lama said, "Be kind whenever possible, and it's always possible." I also know, in spite of good intentions, I will continue to mess up. Mistakes happen. I will stray from what I know, forget what matters, and must return to the path again and again. Like many of us who have discovered here as we've tried to understand and confront racism, I try to do the right thing and I fall short. I may look away when I see a chance to make a difference. When I fail to step up or when I mess up, I try to forgive. And that way I might also forgive others. I firmly believe that what I do matters. What we do here matters. That English teacher and some of you here have changed my life and never knew it. I believe our prayers and our postcards changed the world. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. And finally, I believe in hope. As we heard in the Solnet reading, hope is an embrace of the known and the unknowable. It's an alternative to certainty. It's the belief that what we do matters, even though how and when it may matter, who and what it may impact are not things we can know beforehand. We may not, in fact, know them afterward either, but they matter just the same. Thank you. And now, as you're willing and able, I invite you to rise in body or spirit, sing hymn number 352, Find a Stillness.
Thank you, Corky. Thank you, Craig. Thank you, Liz. It's words like those that continue to make me understand why it's important for me to be here. These are words from Thich Nhat Hanh. Knowledge is solid. It blocks the way of understanding. Water can flow, can penetrate. In Buddhism, knowledge is regarded as an obstacle to understanding, like a block of ice that obstructs water from flowing. It is said that if we take one to be the truth and cling to it, even if truth itself comes in person and knocks at our door, we won't open it. For things to reveal themselves to us, we need to be ready to abandon our views about them.